Thank you for your wonderful introduction. Today I'm going to be going over what's new in APL 2017 and then placing some parameters on points in a family. And then we're going to be going from APL to glue and showing you how it can be brought through on the iPad. So from here, I will go ahead and switch over to Revit and go ahead and start showing you what's new. So we'll go over and pull up our Autodesk Point Layout tab in the ribbon, and we'll come over for the control points, and we'll go ahead and set up some control points on all of our grid lines. So I'll open up a level where we have some grid lines here. And we can just click on the control points, and we can add a point prefix. So I'm going to go ahead and type in grid here, so we'll know that these are for our grid control points. And then our point description are going to be grid intersection points. And we can add or specify the starting number for our points. I'm going to go ahead and start with 1,000. And we'll go ahead and place points. I'm going to use the place point grid command. And it will ask me if I want to append the grid line name to the description so I know what grid lines are intersecting. So I'm going to say yes. And it's asking me what level I want my grid point intersections to be on. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a level. And I'm just going to use level 1. And then I'm going to fence in the entire area, and notice how it only selects the grid line points to place the grid lines to place points on. And then I will hit finish, and it's going to go through and place all the points, and then give me another option to place more points and change all of the information that I put in. But since I'm done with my control points on the grid, I'm just going to hit done. And now if I zoom in over here, you can see how I have points already placed in. So I'll click on Manage here, and I can see I started out at 1,000, and I placed 253 points just in that one command. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And one of the new things with 2017 is being able to add colors to your points. So I want to go ahead and make all of my control points red. So I'll go ahead and do modify. And since my control points are the only points in the project, I'm going to hit all, and I'm going to add a color to them. Now I want all my control points to be red, so I'm going to click red and hit OK. And now every place I have a control point, all the points have been changed over to red. Now this doesn't help me too much in the 2D view, but if I switch back over to the 3D view I was originally in, we can zoom in. Didn't come through. Let's see. So those are my control points. Go into modify, all, color, and red, and hit OK. And now you can see all of my control points are red. So let's go ahead and add some more points in the model for our foundations and our footings. So I'll click on slab and footing. I'm going to leave the point type as a wall point because it's the generic point, but I'm going to do the prefix for footing. And I will use the type name as my point description. I'll leave my starting number at 3,000, and I'm going to change my point rule to stake out so that in the field they understand that these points need to be staked out. I'm going to have it select all of them visible in the view, but I'm going to filter by the type. So I can hit OK, and I want to put points on my 4-inch concrete and my footings. So I'll hit OK, and now Revit's going to go ahead and automatically populate the model with all my points at the bottoms of all my footings. Now I want to be able to easily distinguish these footing points from my pipe points just by looking at them. So I'm going to go back into Modify, and instead of doing all this time, I'm going to filter it by type. And I'm just going to put points on the wall points. So we'll hit OK, and we'll change those colors, and this time we'll make these colors blue. So we'll hit OK, and now all my footing points that are in the model have been changed to blue. So now we're going to go ahead and put points on all the stub-ups, pipes, and conduit in the project. So I'll go ahead and click on Pipe, and I want to select all the pipes in the view, but I only want the vertical ones for the stub-ups. And I want it to put points at the top and the bottom. My description I'll leave as a standard description, and it asks me if I want to append the diameter to the point description, so I'll say yes. So just by clicking on the point in the field, I'll know what size pipe that point references. So now I could go in and see that I have points on all of the pipes that are vertical. Now I want to go in and make these points green, so I'll go back to Modify, and we'll filter by types, and I will click on Pipe Point and hit OK. I'll change the color of them, and this time I want these points to be green. So I'll click green and hit OK, and then you can see all of the points have changed over to green. Now that I have the points on my footings, my grade intersections, and my pipes, I want to put points on my duct hangers. Well, since these duct hangers are not fabrication parts, they are families, I will click on the duct hanger and click Edit Family, and I'm going to go ahead and place points in these families. Alright, now that I have the family opened, I'm going to go back into Autodesk Point Layout, and I'm going to click under the Add Points section, I'm going to click on the Face tool, and it's going to ask me if I want to select elements, faces, edges, or topography. I want to select a face of an element, and it's going to ask me if I want to mark the edges of the face, create a grid on that face, or a triangular mesh on the face. I just want to mark the edges, and I'm going to do automatic, and I'm going to call this point type a hanger point. And hit OK. So now I'm going to zoom in and click on my face. Take a couple seconds to go ahead and place this point on that face. Looks like Revit's hit a little snag here. So we'll wait for this to come through. Usually it doesn't take quite so long. I think I ran into a little hiccup with Revit. All right, now that I get my description back up, it lets me know that I've placed my point and it's been placed in. So I'll move this over, and you can see my point here. Now I have a point on this one, but I don't have a point on the other hanger, so I'm going to hit OK again, and then come over and click on the other rod, and click on the face, and it'll place the point, give me my description again. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. Now that I've got my points in the family, I'm going to go ahead and load them into the project. So we'll pull them into the project and overwrite the existing version. Give it a few seconds to regenerate and bring these points into the project. Now we're looking at our hanger here and we don't see the points, but when I click on the hanger, I can see that it's placing a point over to the side. And if you look at this hanger here, the point has been disassociated with the rod. So what I'm going to have to do is click on the family again. We're going to edit it, and this time we're actually going to lock the points to the ends of the rod. So I'm going to go into my floor plan reference level and zoom in here, and now we can see our rod here and our point with our reference line here. Now you notice that our point is just a crosshair right now. If I switch this over to fine, it changes from a crosshair to a square. And if I change it to medium, it gives me my crosshair and my square. Now I like working in the medium so I can get my crosshairs to lock the point to my grid plane. And I like the square because it shows me where the crosshairs are. So now that I'm looking at it, I'm going to go ahead and click the Modify ribbon, and I'm going to align the plane to the crosshair of the point, and I'm going to lock it. Now I'm going to do this for every axis that I can for these points. So I got those two axes locked on that point. I'm going to come over and do the same for this point. And lock it in. And now I've got my X and my Y, but my Z is still open. So I'll pull up an elevation where I can see the points. I'm going to change it back to medium. And now I'm going to go ahead and just change the height here to show you how they're not connected. And you can see the rod height changed, but the points stayed up in space, so I need to go ahead and align again and then lock them to the reference plane. And now that we have them locked, I'll change the height back just to make sure that they move with the reference plane, which they did. So now I can go ahead and load them back into my project. And now my point should be on top of my hanger rods, no matter how wide or tall the hanger is. And here they are. And we can look through and see that these hangers are different widths, and the points are still associated with the tops of the bars. Now sometimes on these hangers, instead of 2 rods, you have 3. Well, having an extra family for that 3rd rod can be a little bit of a nuisance. So what we're going to do is go ahead and make a parameter where we can add or remove that 3rd rod from the family. So let's go ahead and duplicate the rod here. So we'll go into the reference level. We'll zoom in on the rod. Now I don't want to grab the point here and duplicate the point and the rod at the same time, only because if I duplicate the rod with the point, Revit will look at this point being the same point twice, as opposed to a completely different point. And that will cause you to have duplicates in your point numbers. So we'll go ahead and copy this one over. I'm just going to go ahead and lock it to the center instead of creating a new measurement. So I'm going to bring the rod over, and I'm going to align this. All right, and now that that is done, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to an elevation and lock the height of the rod to the bar just like the other ones. So we're just going to drag it back and drop, and once we drop it on there, we'll have the option to lock it. And we're going to do the same with the bottom here and lock it. And now we'll go over to our 3D view and add another point, just like we did before. So we'll go by face, faces, edges, automatic, and we'll change this back to hanger point. And hit OK. We'll zoom in here. And now that we have our point, we'll go back and we have to lock it. All right, now that we have our point and our rod in there, we want to have the ability to hide this rod and point and bring them just based on whether we want the hanger to have 3 rods or 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the rod and the point, and over here in our properties we have the visibility option checked under our graphics. But if you look over to the right, there's a little square here, and I'm going to click on this square, and this lets me add a parameter. So you can see we have the use annotation parameter, but I want a new one. So we're going to click new parameter. We're going to add a name. So I'll call this one third rod. And we want this to be an instance parameter. That way we can select it based on individual rod or individual hangers as opposed to the type as a whole. So we'll group the parameter under other and hit OK. And now we have the third rod option, we'll hit OK. And we're going to go ahead and make sure that that option defaults to being unchecked. So we'll uncheck it and hit OK. And we'll load this back into our project. All right. Now that it's loaded back, we can click on a hanger here, and we see that this hanger has just 2 points on it and 2 rods. But if we go down to the bottom, we have our other category with our third rod. So I'll go ahead and check that third rod, and our third rod with the third point pops up. So if we click here, we go down and look, we've got 3158 and 3201. Go into edit, or sorry, not edit family. We'll go back into our Autodesk Point Layout and open up Manage over here. Now I want to come down and I'm going to go through our point description until I find hanger. I'm going to click on hanger point and hit apply. And what this is going to do is it's going to pull all of my hanger points out. So I can scroll down through here and see all of these hanger points that we have. And we'll hit OK. Now we're going to click on one of the rods and we're going to select all instances and entire project. And we're going to add the third rod to them. And let the model regenerate so I can show you how the points will populate into the model or be removed from the model based on our parameter here. So if we go back to Point Layout and go to Manage, we'll go down to hanger again and hit apply, and this time we can see we have a lot more hanger points. All right, now that we see how many we have, we'll remove it again. Let's go and see this point right here. This is point 3096. If we go into Manage, we'll go down here. And then we see 3096 over here. We'll do Cancel, and we're going to remove that third point. And then go back into Manage and try to find that 3096 just to make sure it removed it from the list. And now it goes from 3095 to 3097. So we have effectively made it so that we can add or remove a point just at the click of a button. All right, now that we have all these points in the project, we're going to go ahead and upload our model to Glue. So we're going to go to Add-ins, and we're going to click on Glue. And I want to upload this 3D view. And all I'm going to do is click Glue it. All right, now I'm going to bring up my iPad over here. All right, let's see. AirPlay. Would you like to update the model? Yes, I would. So as that is updating, get this connected. I missed it. So come over to reflector. Wait for that to open up. My reflector doesn't seem to be connecting to my iPad, so I'll just go ahead and open Glue up on the computer here. Let's see. Here we go. So let's go ahead and find our layout model. All right, this one is still gluing, so we'll give it a little bit more time. Let it finish its gluing process. All right, well, to save a little bit of time, I'm going to go ahead and open up another version that I'd previously glued. All right, so now that we have this in here, we can zoom in and we'll see our control points on the grid intersections. We have points on the wall intersections. We have points on our footings and points on our stub-ups. So now we can be looking at our stub-ups, and if we're in the field and notice that one of our stub-ups is missing, we can easily come over to the markups, add a new markup, and we'll do circle here, and we're just going to circle out this area and then add a little bit of text. And we'll call this missing stub up. All right, and now that we have this done, we can go ahead and save it. And now that we have it saved, we can email it and send it out to anybody that's in the project. So I can go ahead and send it to the architect saying this stub up is missing. Is this a problem with the model or a problem in the field? And that way it can be sorted out right then and there. You don't have to worry about remembering it when you get back to the office and typing up a separate email. All we had to do was, while we were going around the building with the iPad, right then and there, we can go ahead and call out the missing pieces and get things done and turned around a lot quicker. All right, now that I've gone through all this, we'll go back to our PowerPoint. And there's a new plugin for BIM 360 called Fab to Bim 360, which is going to connect Fabrication CAD MEP to BIM 360 Glue and Field. It's going to enable fabrication spools to be tracked as a single entity in Glue and Field. You can calculate spool weight, length, cost, etc. through Glue and Field in the field with the iPad. And then you can make spool status reports in a snap, and the billing process is a lot easier. And now that we've gone through that, does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Kevin. We actually have a number of questions that have come in. I'll start with, when placing points on vertical pipe, can you filter out only those that are penetrations? And then to further clarify, there are likely many pipes in a given file that are vertical but will not need a point.
Yes, you can filter it out. It's not actually based on penetrations. Let me see, why am I getting, oh. So what we do is we come into our floor plan here, and we can either say that we want to do all of the pipe that are vertical in this view, or we can just fence off a section. So let's say we go back into our APL and we'll click on pipe, and the first option that it gives us is if we want to do all the pipes in that view or just a section. So you can hit fence, and you can tell it you want it to pick vertical, horizontal, or both. So right now I'm just going to do vertical, and I can go through and just select a certain side of the building, or I can go through and individually pick pipes to put points on. And looks like in this view I can't actually see any of the pipes. But if I go to the 3D mechanical and I zoom in, and let me go ahead and remove all of the points in the model. So if I go back to pipe and I do fence, I can individually select pipes. So let's say I didn't want this one right here. I can just select these pipes by clicking on them, or I can go through and do a window and just select those pipes. So you've got a pretty diverse way of selecting the pipes and making sure you get only the ones you want to put points on. But you can't just say, I want to put points on all the pipes that go through a slab. Did that answer the question?
I hope so. I have another question for you. Are modifications to points view sensitive?
It depends on how you do it. So if you add the colors the way I was showing you with the modify, they are view sensitive. If you add the colors to the point families themselves, they will go and be visible on any of the views that you have open. But those colors will only be visible in the Revit model and the BIM 360 Docs app on your computer, or not Docs, Glue, I'm sorry. So if you open up Glue on the computer or the iPad, those points will still have that generic color to them.
Okay, sounds good. Is it possible to lay points on center of all walls?
It's a tough question. Can they define center of wall? Do they mean the center of the wall as in the center that goes all the way across, or the center point of that wall?
I guess we'll give him a chance to clarify, and I will ask another question. Can you copy and paste the point to the face of the rod?
You can, but you will generate duplicate point numbers. So if I copy the point in the point family, it will assume that that is the same point twice and number it the same in both positions. So you'll generate some errors by doing that. That's why it's better just to go ahead and create a new point.
We got the clarification about the center wall. Center of wall at the beginning and end, perhaps every 10 feet.
Yes, yes, we can do that. So I'll go ahead and click on the wall command here, and I'll start it out at 1,000. Now, we have the option to put the points on the exterior edges of the walls, which would be the finish. We have the option to put the points on the exterior finishes of the core boundaries, or we could put it on the center line of the entire wall or the center line of the core boundary. So I'll go ahead and do finish center. So this is going to put points on the finish or the center line of these walls. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And I'm just going to go through and select these walls right here and hit finish. So we can zoom in here and see that the points were placed in the center of the wall. And this wall ends here, so it put this point on the center of this. And this wall ends here, so it put the point at the center of that wall. And these are all on the end. But if we want them to be at the very center from start to finish, we'll go ahead and click on the wall command again. And this time we'll come down to the curve option. And we'll do it at, he said halfway, so we'll do a percentage for 50%. And I'm just going to select this one wall again and hit enter or finish. So now we should have a point at the center of that wall, but we don't. So we'll go through again, and instead of 50%, I'm going to do 25%, because usually 50% gives us some issues. So we'll go ahead, hit OK, select this wall again, do finish. It looks like it's still not putting our points in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a face point, and I want to put it on the face, and then edges, and I'm going to do a percentage here with 50%, and we'll do a wall point. Hit OK, and we're just going to select this one face of the wall and hit done now that we have the points in. And you'll see it put a point at the center of the wall. Now that option for the curve usually works out pretty well with the point in the center. Let's see if I can find one of the curved walls. Here we go. So if we do the wall again, and this time we'll do a set distance of 4 feet. And I'm going to select these two curved walls and hit finish. Oh, I know what it's doing. Because I have the center of the wall selected, it's not putting them along it. So I'm going to do finish and do the same thing. And now zoom in, and it'll have a point from the start, and it'll put a point every 1 foot along that wall. Now let's try that again with that wall over here. So we'll go ahead and remove the points. Click on wall, do a percentage on the finish. And there we go. So Revit was just having trouble calculating the center of the wall with the center of the core because of how stuff wraps and all that stuff. So hopefully that answered the question of, can you put a point in the center of the wall?
Great. I think that did. I have another question. Can you specify what type of point you want in the duct hanger family? For example, have it called out as a 3/8 inch rod so the layout guy knows what to insert?
Yes, you can add that, and you can also do the description. I have already undid the points that I placed here, so it will take me a little bit, but if they want to get together after this, we can go into a little bit more detail of how to do that.
That sounds good. Circling back to the points at the center question, is there a way to add a point center of the wall at all receptacle locations?
All receptacle locations. Can you be a little bit more specific?
If our gentleman chimes in, I can, and we can always get back to you. We can follow up after the webinar with the answer to that. Okay. One last question: do the point colors come through on the iPad when transferred to the computer?
No, they don't. The iPad only shows the point color that you select for all of them, except the control points. Control points on the iPad are always red.
Okay. Excellent. And we did hear back, to be more specific, he was referring to the electrical device locations.
You would have to put the points in the electrical device families, and then when you bring those families in, where you place those, the points will show up.